Okay. Hi everyone. Sorry, some confusion on the timing and your moderator was late. Okay. So as I was asked at this NRAI meeting this morning, I'm going to throw a googly. I'm going to ask a question which wasn't on my email. So let's discuss investments in food courts, return on capital, and how you view that versus investing in kiosks, investing in, you do restaurants. So a lot of you do multiple formats, and food court is one of the format. And I'm not, so Anurag, this is not as an aggregator, but just say as if you're a brand. So if you're a brand and you're putting in, how do you all, and please pick it up. This is for the operators on the panel. How do you all, view this decision and make this decision?
So let's purely talk from a business point of view. A QSR is a asset-light, low-risk model as far as investments are considered, deployment of capital is concerned. Now, what happens if you look at the typical business model of a food court? The maximum portion of your operating expenses are fixed in nature, which is whether it is rental, energy, or manpower. So, in my view, the simple arithmetic for a QSR is drive volumes. Now, whether by way of people coming to you or you reaching out to them, a little before you came in, there was a discussion around deliveries from food court. I personally believe delivery is a delivery reaching food. Whether it's coming from a restaurant, food court, doesn't matter, it's the quality of food. So, as far as economics is concerned, it's a low risk model because the capex is very low, returns are, but if you look at pure ROI on the investments, I think this is one of the safer models.
Okay, Dheeraj?
Yes, so when we look at putting up a Jumbo King store, say in a food court in a mall or at a metro station or an airport location or a high street location, 4 cases. And if, I need to put one of these on priority. So, we would, with our product, obviously go for the railways, for the metro station, surely because of the large numbers of crowd that we get there. Plus, that is consistent. It is 7 days of the week. In the food court scenario, the business is all skewed towards the weekends. Of course, it is phenomenal business. It becomes more of a, we start hoping that we have the flexi working hours on Saturdays because you're typically carrying the extra staff on the other 5 days. Because the business is all going to happen only on the weekends. So, when you calculate ROI in totality, we prefer obviously a metro or an airport or a high street store.
Okay, so metro, airport, Mr. Airport Expert here. You, come on. Who else is the airport expert on the panel?
So Samir, you came and asked the googly question about money, returns and all. That's always the hard ones.
Hey, listen, if I didn't get it wrong, and I've been a restaurateur for 27, I'm a consultant now, but I hope you all in the business of making money. Yeah? There's no other business but return on capital employed. That should be top criteria. Yeah?
So it should be, I agree. So I would say airports are a bit of a anomaly. So that's a bit of a business where I think you do your business plans, you go in. So I keep that aside because that's pretty much a Hail Mary business, to be honest. You go in, you put your best foot forward, but sometimes just the rental, the investment, you need to really do something that stands out to make it work. But I think generally at food courts, when you go in, I think Anurag was saying it right, the model is such that I think it's a model that needs time to develop. I think it's not like, say, the pub business or even many restaurants where it starts at a high and eventually it's a business you need to do right, you need to grow it steadily, and it needs years of return. The initial investments are large, provided if you're getting a clean shell, the amount of investment you need to do to actually do it right, the back end, the services. So it's something you need to plan, you need to get sufficient term is very important in the food court business, I think. You need to get that to get your money back. So I think it's a business where it's not a quick return business, it's a bit of a long
gestation.
Yeah.
Do you want to add on the?
Our model is kind of different. We don't do interiors. We expect the developer to do them, and we move on a very, very low cost, low profit margin. The idea actually is to get the vendors who come inside to make money. It's very, very difficult for the small guy to make money, and in food courts where the traffic is not that high, it's better to give them a revenue share, let them grow, and maybe 3 years, 4 years down the road, everybody will make money.
So this is now to, there are some mall developers on the other side. Anyone in, no?
We
Yeah.
have the three format. One is standalone, second is food court, and third is food plaza concept mainly on the highway. So I think the model of food court is very, very different the model of the standalone. In a standalone, we take the bigger type of the restaurant, which has 4,000 to 6,000 square foot area. But in the food court, we will make the business plan depending upon that how much footfall is coming to that food court, and secondly, how much space is required, and how we can calculate the ROI. So I think we are the firm believer, if you have the good food, tasty food, hygienic food, and customer believe that your food is safe, then to attract the crowd in the food court is not a big issue. And we are doing very well in the food court also.
Thank you. So one last question, we'll have quick Q&A. So food court as an operator is challenging. In any food court, there are 10, 15, 20 brands, right? So how as brands do you fight for customer share? I mean, you can't really get onto social media and fight for business on a food court environment. It's really people come in, they look around. No one pre-plans a decision that I'm going to go to this food court and go eat in this outlet. Very rarely. A lot of it is spontaneous. So what are the techniques, methods, ideas that you can share that you use to capture a larger share of footfall in the food court amongst each other as, you know, as brands which compete? Because everyone, in a way, in a food court, even if you're selling different cuisines, you're actually competing for share of wallet. So any thoughts or ideas?
As a consumer, of course, I think there are two factors which are very important. One is when you go into a food court, it's generally in fours, or, you know, it's a family which is going out. So everybody picks on a different brand. You know, the father goes for something else, the mother different, and even the kids choose two different things. So that spreads the business around a lot. And I think the second key part is, I think people don't want to eat the same thing every time. So, you know, you get bored of the same stuff every week. So that you know, again, ends up distributing the business.
Can we use design? Can brands use design to differentiate themselves in a food court environment?
I think they should start using it. They're not doing it right now. They definitely should start using it. I think that will definitely attract more people.
I think, Samir, it's very important to get the positioning also right. You know, the positioning of the outlet that you have. Otherwise, you end up having a lot of clutter over there, and the consumer is not able to differentiate the X outlet from the Y outlet to the Z outlet. And I can tell you this from very much from our experience, because we have Adda brand of outlets which largely has footprint in corporate and education setup. And when we took it to the food court, it didn't work. Yeah, because the positioning was not suited to the food court audience. So, but I think it's very important, and as someone in the panel said that, you know, you have McDonald's out there, you have Burger King inside, and as a consumer, you keep wondering as to which one to go to because everything looks the same. But I think the scene is changing now. From a cuisine lens, there is a lot of segmentation happening within that from a positioning perspective.
Yeah, so I'd like to add an international perspective. I think food courts in Bangkok, food courts in Singapore, they're real in some of the cities I've traveled to in Asia, really unique. You know, so brands distinguish themselves with design. They distinguish themselves with product. Create your own. You know, they're all kind of exciting innovation happening around F&B and food courts in these two cities. So, you know, so anyone who's doing food courts, definitely visit Bangkok, Singapore. There's some very classy food courts out there.
Samir, that's exactly what I just said, I think, before you walked in, about all these. And it has nothing to do with the design. It basically has to do with something, a little bit with the developer, just to tell him. But like I said, as soon as we start giving a concept to a developer, a food court guy comes and makes these pigeon boxes and says, "Acha, ye sabko de do. Ho gaya 30,000 square foot."
Okay, so questions from the audience here. Yes.
Thanks, Samir. I actually wanted to address something that you asked Anurag about whether music was important in his business. And my business is providing music to hospitality and retail. As Indigo, I would spend up to 4 hours a week discussing music with the management because it was that critical to them. Now I've got Anurag saying, well, you know what, in a food court, it really doesn't matter. And a lot of it is true, because in the food court, you say, well, we're going to play what the mall is playing. Just as you said with design, Shabnam, Samir, why aren't you taking that distinction that you put in your standalone restaurant and saying, all right, we're in a bloody food court, but we're still going to take that same quality, we're still going to take that same customer experience to that space as well?
No, Anish, a lot of this has to do with the ambience of a food court. The noise levels in a typical food court is so high that the music gets lost. I did not mean to say, as I said, music is an integral part of any place. But in a food court with 200 people, everybody talking, I don't know who is listening, and with that kind of noise.
You forget that Indigo at any point had over 200 people all talking at the same time.
That was after 11:30 in the night.
Okay, valid point. I think, we've got to look at other differentiating factors and take food courts hopefully up a notch or two. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, I think you can get a mic at the back.
Hello. My question really revolves around the operators and the developers of food courts. The physical asset within which your food courts or whatever concept needs to be designed and operated, how many of those builders actually engage with all of you during the building and design stage that actually help reduce the cost?
No,
because
so developers will engage with an aggregator. So for instance, so what happens in some food courts in India is that a developer will give the whole food court to one aggregator, one operator, large operator, in which case there would be some engagement. But a lot of food courts work on the model where the developer actually gives out individual spaces, in which case there is no design or no input taken. Input is only really taken from aggregator, operators who are taking 20,000 square feet of space, and then of course the developer would do some engagement with you.
But for example, just to answer further, when we were developing our food court, one thing which I was very worried about was, every brand, obviously they need their own identity. So suddenly the food court looks like very multicolored, Sometimes closed eyes, you can mistake it for a kindergarten school. What we did in our case was, we took the cost of doing up the fronts of all counters ourselves, and we said, buddy, you don't need very huge place to put your name. We just did a lollipop sign against each of those. Now what it does from a design perspective is, there is a uniformity of design. But to answer your question very specifically, as the aggregator, did I engage my operators in design? The answer is no. But yes, we did take a very conscious decision to make it in a little upscale and more consistent manner than what the brands do normally.
Okay, thanks. We can take one last question if there's one. I think the time is really up. Any last questions? No? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for stepping in and moderating part of the panel because of the confusion. But thank you all for your time. Thank you.